So today's the 15th of Elul, a significant day for Chabad and then for myself, my family personally. So on Chabad level, today is the day that the Chabad Yeshiva was founded. The Chabad network of yeshivas is founded by the fifth Chabad Rabbi, Rabbi in the year, don't remember, it's slipping my mind.
1897, 98.
It would make sense, yeah. It makes sense. 1890, it makes sense somewhere there. And so really the day that shaped a generation of people committed to this idea of Chassidus. Just to give some background, explain what I mean. So Chassidus exists already for a number of generations from the Alter Rebbe, right, from the first generation. Rabbi Shalom Deber is the fifth generation. But till then, it was a philosophy that to one degree or another, people joined Hasidic communities, but in terms of like really connecting to the philosophy and to the way of life on a deep level, was to some degree relegated to someone who's already advanced in their scholarship and already advanced in their Torah and was looking for added depth. They engaged in Hasidic teaching. But somebody, a young boy in yeshiva, may have learned here or there, gone to a fabrengen once a year, or just live. But the Hasidic community was relegated to, I don't want to say elite, but to the real depth of Hasidus was limited to advanced, certainly married people who were like already advanced in their life and in their Torah and whatnot. And the Rebbe Rashab, anticipating the revolution that was going to come, and the revolution didn't just mean communism, but it meant all the various different isms that were popular at the time, the Zionism, the socialism, and the Bundism, and Yiddishism, and all these various different emancipated ideas that would seep their way into the Jewish community. And many a young person got swept up in the idealism, the passions that came along with all these various different groups. So anticipating that, the Rebbe Rashab understood that we have to create a platform in which we can give young Jews that idealism in Torah. And it only works if you give them Chassidus right from the beginning. Don't wait till they're observant and they're already advanced. And then if they're looking for a deeper connection, now they get Chassidus. You got to give them that high level idealism right from the start. So right at a young age, 15, 16, right away start teaching them Chassidus. Right away start seeing purpose in life. What does God want? The soul, the power of the soul, and so on and so forth. Right from the beginning, start off with deep meditative prayer, so that right from the beginning, they can have this passionate resolve and connection to Hashem. In this regard, that's what the Rebbe Rashab said when he founded his school. He said, I'm not looking to make scholars. There's plenty of yeshivas where you can go become a scholar. He said, I'm looking to create what he said, neidos l'hoyer, candles that illuminate. In other words, Jews that are so committed so deeply that wherever they go, they become luminaries just by their very existence, just by their very being. And these became the students that afterwards, when communism did hit, and Russia was under atheistic totalitarian regime, these were the boys who were living and dying, literally dying, to keep Yiddishkeit alive, the underground mikvahs, the underground schools, the underground yeshivas, and so on and so forth. And included in this list of people who were dedicated to the death is my wife's grandfather, whose yahrzeit is actually tomorrow, by Yeshua Raskin. He sat in jail for 30-something years for teaching in a school, for teaching when he was 17, 18 years old, and he went to go teach someone who was arrested. And his mother died in prison. His brothers were arrested. All that stuff. But this all came from Tem Chutzmim. This all came from this yeshiva that embedded this kind of passion and this drive right from a young age. And we witnessed it at the Oil Shabbos, this young bacher getting up. Yeah, just to describe the scene for our viewers, right? So we're sitting Shabbos at the Oil. There's a big tent, maybe 100 people. And it's a festive Shabbos meal with fabrengen. So there's people saying l'chaim, there's Negudim going on, there's a fabrengen, there's a scene going on. And a young boy, he's under 20, pulls up a stand, bangs on the table, gets everybody quiet and says, welcome everybody to the Siyum HaRambam, to the celebration in which we conclude a book of Rambam. And proceeded to thank everybody for coming to the event that he interrupted them for. So why did he do all this? He did it with kind of self-deprecating humor. He wasn't doing it. He didn't take himself so seriously. He was doing it with kind of self-deprecating humor. Why did he do this? Very simple. The Rebbe said to learn Rambam every day, 1 chapter or 3 chapters. They've also instructed that whenever the cycle of Rambam study comes to the conclusion of a book, right? There's 14 books of Rambam. So every time you should conclude a book, you should celebrate the conclusion. And on Shabbos, the cycle of studying 3 chapters a day concluded the book of Zmanim, which talks about laws related to the calendar, Shabbos and holiday and whatnot. And we began the book of Nashim, women, which deal with the laws of marriage and that kind of thing. So because we're concluding a book, and Rebbe said we should celebrate it. So what do you mean? Rebbe said we should celebrate it. So he's going to do it. There's a world going on, and there's people, and so what? What does it do? What does it do with anything? We're instructed to make a siyum celebration on a book. Okay, we're going to do it. That kind of resolve, that kind of passion and dedication, without consideration for whether the world likes it, agrees with it, doesn't agree with it, or anything like that. That's what Talmud Sotah did. That's what this yeshiva does. That's what fuels shluchim all over, myself included, the education we got in this kind of vein. So that's today, the 15th of Elul, founding of Talmud Sotah. And on a more personal note, it's my brother-in-law who passed away a few months ago. Today's his birthday, the 15th of Elul. My brother-in-law was named Michal, and he's named Michal for my wife's great-grandfather, who was one of the first students in that original yeshiva. So he was born on the 15th of Elul, the day of the founding of the yeshiva. So my in-laws felt it appropriate to name him after their grandfather, who was a Tamim, who was a student in this yeshiva. So all to saying, I would like to dedicate the class to my brother-in-law's memory, Michal ben Yibad L'chaim Tov Yehuda Leib. Himself was a Tamim, himself lived in this yeshiva. Okay, so that introduction. Begin the Gemara on the bottom of 15a, the last 3 lines. So after we describe the proceedings of the Sotah, at least the beginning part, specifically we describe the meal offering. We're going to get into the second part of the Sotah offering, the Sotah procedure, which is the water that she has to drink. But we describe the offering, which is the meal offering, all its various details. The basket is brought in, what type of flour, and comparing it to other offerings. And in doing so, we discovered that the Sotah offering is given the least dignified type offering. Whereas other meal offerings are made of fine flour and they have oil and frankincense. The Sotah offering is made of barley, unrefined barley, and no oil and no frankincense. So it's kind of given this lower status. If we're going to follow the logic that we gave in our last class on Thursday, and that on the simple level, as we're going to learn, or as we learned, because she behaved derogatorily, so the offering she gets is of a lower status. But on a deeper level, as we explained, perhaps Hashem is kind of lowering the bar and saying, even the most basic level of teshuvah is good. It's true, we want you to advance and get to higher and higher levels, but Hashem is loving and embracing, and even if all we bring is an animal meal offering, all we bring is a barley, all we have to offer is this lowest basic level of teshuvah, even that Hashem accepts. And then with that love that Hashem shows us, we talked about this on Shabbos, Hashem shows so much love, we almost feel like, how could we let you down? How could we not do more? So Hashem shows us this kind of love and says, even the basic level of teshuvah, I accept you. It inspires us to do even higher levels of teshuvah. Okay, so all in that context, says the Gemara like this. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Gamliel said, just like her behavior is animalistic, so too her offering is animalistic, because she brings barley, which is an animal fodder, as opposed to flour, which is for human consumption. So the Gemara elaborates and quotes a Mishnaic age text, also from Rabbi Gamliel speaking, but this time more elaborate than the way Rabbi Gamliel's statement appears in the Mishnah. Which is, Tanya, we learned in the Mishnaic text, Amar lehem Rabbi Gamliel lechacham. Rabbi Gamliel said to the sages, Seifrim, scholars, Hanichuli, allow me, Vadar Shena, and I will expound upon this notion, Kimin Chaymer, like Chaymer. What exactly Chaymer is a matter of discussion. Usually Chaymer is translated as substance, material. But in this case, we have a number of different translations. Rashi describes it as some sort of gold like pin that one holds two sides of a shawl together. Rashi describes it like that. Taisus brings that talks about a pearl or some set of perfume, or another version is that it's a kind of like what kind of chaimer is a it's like a modus operandi. At any rate, Rabbi Gamliel basically is telling his sages, let me elaborate on this as beautiful as a chaimer, whatever translation you want to take. Let's just say it's like a pearl or like a perfume. And this explanation, the Shamya that I heard, top of 15b, the Shamya Rabbi Meir that I heard the name Rabbi Meir. The Kamar, Rabbi Meir said, and we quoted this in the previous chapter, she fed the other guy who she engaged with, right? This is the Sotah woman who is allegedly, or is being accused of perhaps being intimate with another man. She definitely secluded herself with this other man. She may have even been intimate. So she fed him, she fed him all kinds of beautiful food, enticing him, luring him in. Therefore, to counteract that, Karbana Michael Behema, her offering is an animalistic offering. You're self-aggrandizing by making all this beautiful food for this guy. So cut down and you bring an offering of barley, which is animal food. So this is what Rabbi Gamliel said, quoting from Rabbi Meir, telling the sages to listen to this beautiful explanation. So Amulei, the sages who were listening to him said, very nice explanation. But this only works well, Ashida. She's a wealthy woman, and she's capable of feeding the guy all this fancy food. What if she's a Nia? What if she's a poor woman? So she wasn't even capable of feeding this guy with all this beautiful food. So where's your message here in terms of the fact that she's bringing a meal offering made of animal food? So Michael Neymar, what could you say of that? So they said, no, Ella, rather, because her behaviors were animalistic, so too her offering is animalistic. She behaved like an animal who basically is not exclusive in their relationships. Animals are not. And so too, she brings an animal offering that is the barley. So this is the Gemara. So when we think about this a little bit deeper, we see like this. In the contrast of these two statements, the first one is that she offered the guy so much beautiful food, so therefore she brings an animal offering. So in this case, actually, the offering she brings is not commensurate to what she did. It's the opposite. It's the inverse. She brought beautiful food, so we're like cutting her down and telling her to bring an animal offering. In the second explanation, it is commensurate. She behaved animalistically, so she brings an animal offering. So that contrast. And that parallels the fact that we're talking about either a rich woman who's capable of giving these fancy offerings, or a poor woman who can't do that. So what might this mean spiritually speaking? So maybe it means something like this. Rich and poor can mean on a spiritual level. The woman, of course, is the Jew, and God is the husband. And the Sotah is the Jew, the wife, who's being unfaithful. He's hanging out with he's serving other objectives other than Hashem himself. Being unfaithful. That's what we've been describing, the parallel, the metaphor of the Sotah is our relationship with Hashem and our being unfaithful, God forbid. So you have the rich woman who's being unfaithful and the poor woman who's being unfaithful. So the rich woman perhaps is someone who is spiritually wealthy. A Jew who's serving God and Torah and mitzvahs. He's doing everything he's supposed to. He's doing everything he's supposed to. So where's the problem? The problem is perhaps And that all this beauty and richness that he has, he fed it to his animal soul. He fed it to the foreigner, as opposed to God himself. Meaning to say, all this stuff got to his ego. So he took all the beauty and richness he has, and instead of dedicating it onto Hashem, he served it to the wrong husband. He served it to his own ego. The Torah increased his Torah scholarship increased his ego. His piety increases his ego. So this is the kind of sin of the rich one, spiritually rich, and that he served. He fed him. She fed to the foreigner, to the animal soul, as opposed to serving it to God. He served his animal soul all the beauty and grandeur that she has, all the great scholarship. Instead of it being dedicated to Hashem, it became impetus for his ego. So for this person, what does he have to do? He has to bring an animal offering. A little humility. Got to be humbled a little bit. Specifically, Tanya quotes the pasuk which says, "Ani ba'er v'lo eda, v'hemus hayis imach." I was a boar, I did not know. I was like an animal with you. And this is explained in the virtuous sense. And a Jew understands that with all the great scholarship he has, he's still like an animal before Hashem in terms of his intelligence. Because at the end of the day, the truth of Hashem is beyond knowability. It's transcendent, as we learned in the Maimer on Shabbos. The truth of Hashem himself is transcendent of all, even the greatest of intelligence. And therefore understanding that even at the greatest level of intelligence, I'm still an animal. In the sense that, in the same way, the animal's intelligence is not less than the human. It's of a different caliber. So we need to remember and understand that our accepting the truth that Hashem is beyond anything we can possibly understand. And as great as our scholarship goes and as great as our piety goes, we still are like animals eating animal fodder in the presence of you, Hashem. And that brings the humility there. For this guy, for the rich woman, the rich Jew, the Jew who's full of Torah and mitzvahs, but he's feeding it in the wrong direction. He's feeding it to his own ego as opposed to feeding it to Hashem. The counteraction is bring an animal offering. Remember the humility. Remember that in the face of God, we are insignificant. And it's only by the grace of you, Hashem, that we've been granted some understanding of your Torah. Not because I'm intelligent that I get to understand God's Torah. It's because you and your graciousness, Hashem, have offered the ability to allow for your Torah to be belittled to the point that I can understand it. That's the first kind. But then there's the poor woman. There's a Jew who doesn't necessarily have all that great depth of understanding. And the Jew who doesn't have the great piety. She's a poor woman. So where did this Jew go wrong? This Jew went wrong in that her actions were the actions of animals. Can't expect necessarily this Jew to have the great scholarship like the previous guy. We can't. But in terms of what you do, that we could expect. Jew's got to perform the mitzvahs. He's got to do what he has to do. So even if he doesn't have Madan HaYolam, he doesn't have all the great riches of Torah scholarship and all that, doesn't have that. But Maisa, actions, every Jew has that. Every Jew can do mitzvahs. And therefore the mistake here, the failing of this Jew was, she thinks I'm poor, so whatever, I don't have Torah, this Jew thinks I'm poor, I don't have scholarship, I don't have Torah, okay, so whatever. So I don't know. But your actions you can behave the way you're supposed to. And in acting like a behemoth, acting out of the animal, from the animal soul side, right? So therefore there's the offering of the animal food. They say the person has to offer, at least even if you can't offer the great scholarship, but his animal soul has got to offer to Hashem. The action, Maisa Behema, the actions of hers. A Jew's performance can be the way Hashem wants to, even if he doesn't have the scholarship and piety of the spiritually rich Jew. That's perhaps the deeper spiritual message of this Gemara. God willing, tomorrow we'll get into the Mishnah, which begins the other part of the Sotah offering, the other part of the Sotah procedure, which is a description of the water that she drinks. Where the water comes from, it's mixed with earth. Where does the earth come from? All of that we'll get into, God willing, tomorrow and the rest of the week. Wonderful day.